Hello, hello friends. My name is Kristy Rice, and I believe in making art for joy's sake. Today, I'm going to walk you through painting the dreaded white flower. But I promise you this, it's not nearly as scary as you might think. Let's get painting.
Today we are using Arch's 640 GSM watercolor paper, my Art for Joy's Sake dagger brush, a liner brush, and my artisanal watercolor palette. You're going to start by creating a very, very soft purpley blue. And what do I mean by soft? Lots and lots of water, not so much pigment. Mix that up on a little mixing palette or a plate of some sort, and let's start creating these petals. The color is just obvious enough for you to see what you're doing as you start to sketch out these petals. They are basically misshapen teardrops that meet at the center. I'm going to do 5 petals overall because odd numbers look best to the eye when it comes to composition. Lots and lots of water here. Remember, this is ultimately going to evolve into your white flower, but it needs to stay very light and soft for that to happen. You're going to create some petals that curve, some that curve upwards, some that curve down. The bottom line though is you don't want every petal to look like the next. You want them each to have their own personality. If you don't feel quite comfortable starting off on your final painting yet, go ahead and practice creating some petals on a scrap piece of paper. Feel free to add a little bit of yellow at the center just to give yourself some structure. And now to the good stuff. We're going to start adding in leaves. The dagger brush is known to make it really easy on us to create leaves. We start by pressing down harder to make a broader stroke and then lift up to create a point to our leaf. And then fill in between anything that your brush didn't cover with that beautiful green that you choose. I'm not going to tell you what green to choose. You choose what you love. And just continue adding color and water to the page as you create your different leaf shapes. Here's the thing with white flowers. White flowers need context. What do you mean, Kristy? Context? I don't understand. It's really what's around the white flower that makes the flower itself pop. And so here, it's about the green leaves. And so you're going to decide where to pop in some green leaves in between those, quote, white petals. And right now they're kind of gray petals. They still look kind of gray compared to everything on the page. But as you build your leaves around, you'll start to see that white flower emerge more and more obviously. And remember, I'm not going to tell you what color green to use. You're probably not using the palette I'm using, and that's a-okay. I want you to choose greens that you go to again and again, greens that you love. If you need a little bit of help and a little bit of exercise in terms of how to make leaves, I do have another video that is really popular here on my channel that you can check out. It's a great way to loosen up and get familiar with creating a lot of different styles of leaves. You don't want to completely crowd the white flower with leaves. You just want to choose some very specific places to add them. And as you can see, that white flower is starting to emerge. It's all about context. It's all about what is surrounding your white petals. And remember, the wet page is an opportunity. So as you're creating these petals, dab in some shadows. You see me there? I'm dabbing in some of that muddy color that is included in my palette. And I'm dabbing it into the little crevices where the petals and the leaves meet, and that's creating instant shadow. The wet page is an opportunity, friends. Don't forget to use it. We'll continue here with some darker leaves. If you want a little more texture to your leaf, don't use quite as much water on your brush like I'm doing there. As I create the brush stroke, my paint is running out, but it's leaving behind some really beautiful texture. And again, I'm going in over and over into the wet areas, adding some blues, adding some ochre, some yellows. It's just a great time to really amplify what you already have going on the page. When that page is wet, that is your time to shine. That is your time to drop in color after color and let them explode into one another and let those happy accents flow. Now, I want to point out something. I very purposely didn't clean my water before starting this painting session, just to show you that we could still create a beautiful white flower even with dingy paint water. Now I'm going in with my liner brush. I've mixed a little bit of a brighter blue and I'm adding this very, very delicate line work. I'm following the contour of my petal. And this is what will continue to kind of help this flower, this beautiful white flower, pop. Is a liner brush necessary? Is it required to create this flower? Absolutely not. You could use the very tip of your dagger brush or the very tip of a round brush. But the liner brush for me is just a little bit of magic in my painting arsenal that I choose not to live without. You can mix up a really soft blue to add these linear details. You can mix up just a soft gray. And when I say mix, don't panic. Just slap some color together, add some water, and paint with what you've got. Don't worry about mixing the perfect color. I'm being very careful to add linear details to each petal, but to ensure that each petal has its own personality. I don't want each petal to look the same. That's something to remind yourself of. It's a great lesson in composition. You don't want them to look the same. They're a creation of nature, and they're never going to look the same. So why should they in your painting? Now I'm using my liner brush to add, I'm going to slow this down to add some fluffy detail to the center of my flower. Now this is a quick painting, friends. This is not something we're going to agonize over. You are starting to see this white flower not only start to come to life, but really come into focus right in front of your eyes. And adding this fluffy center with a bunch of kind of vertical linear marks will do the trick and really bring it home. And then of course this super dark center. You can use, I wouldn't necessarily suggest black, but you do you if you want black, or just mix up, a bunch of different colors. Find the corners of your palette where colors meet and mix that up and let that be your dark. I'm adding just a touch of shadow, literally using a little bit of pink and a little bit of whatever was on my brush and creating just a little bit of extra shadow on a few of these petals. You can blend out your shadow that you laid down. If you end up with a hard edge, just add a little bit of clean water next to that brush stroke you laid down and let it blend. Adding a little bit of pink into my leaves. Yes, that's right, a little bit of pink. Those leaves are still very wet. I'm taking this opportunity to add a little love, a little unexpected color. That's one of my trademarks. Add color, very unexpected color, where folks would never guess. And it just creates a lot of drama and mood in your painting. I'm taking that super dark color, whatever you mixed up to use for your super dark, and I'm notching out little areas where the petals meet. I'm not gonna do this all around where every single petal meets, but I'm gonna do it in select places. And what do I mean by notches? Basically, little tiny delicate triangles where a petal meets a petal. And that, boom, you see that flower coming to life? Holy crow. All right, I'm using my liner brush now and I'm making some wispy lines. This is going to be filler, just generic filler flower. I'm choosing this really beautiful pinky terracotta color. Again, you do you. Choose your favorite color from the palette you are using. I'm not going to dictate a color. Using the tip of my dagger brush with a little bit of bouncy pressure, I'm adding little misshapen ovals to the ends of each of those wispy lines. And there you have it, as simple as that. Beautiful filler flower. Now the filler flower gives you context as well. Notice how your white petals are continuing to pop as you add the filler detail. Look at that, isn't that incredible? I'm gonna add some more down here at the bottom left corner. I have a little oopsie there where the paint bubbled, but you know what? I'm gonna make it work, and I'm gonna make a couple more oopsies in other places so that the oopsie becomes an on purpose. See there? Boom. No longer an oopsie. It was all planned. It was all on purpose, and nobody has to know it started as a mistake. And notice I'm still using my liner brush. I use the liner brush a lot. It is my secret weapon. I adore it. It's definitely something you want to practice with a bit. If you just are picking up a liner brush, do yourself a favor and just do a little bit of practice before you dive into a final painting with the new brush. You'll love yourself for it. And I'm just continuing to add the filler flower detail. Whoop, little drop there, no worries. Blot it up. I'm still using that liner brush, digging into the juicy pigment, and I'm adding just a touch of pink right around the center of the flower, just so that flower center doesn't get too terribly serious. And I just feel like I need a little more line work in these upper petals. When you're adding your contour line work, what do I mean by contour? You're following the shape of the petal that you painted early on, following the shape of it and adding that hint, that suggestion of shapeliness with your linear detail. I am adding a little bit of pink here, just a few touches of pink, and then I'm taking clean water right next to those pink brush strokes and blending them out. I love little hints of unexpected color, not only in my leaves, but also in my petals. Now for some drama. That dark color, maybe it came from the crevices. Maybe you mixed it up with a bunch of different colors. Whatever your dark is, add in a few sprigs of baby leaves. And that is very simple to do with your dagger brush, and then finish off with wispy stems from your liner brush. This continues to make that flower, that white flower, pop. Look at that. You're gonna press down with your dagger brush very lightly, drag, press down, drag, press down, and lift. And that's gonna give you all different shapes of beautiful little baby leaves. And again, if you wanna practice leaves, you wanna head to that video because that's where it's at. When it comes to leaves and getting your game on with leaves, you wanna check out one of my most popular videos here on YouTube. Look at that. Hello, white flower. Hello, hello. There's no denying that is a white bloom. No one would be able to say, I don't know, looks like a gray bloom. It's white and you did it. I'm adding a little bit of shadow to the fluffy center. I just grabbed a little bit of a terracotta and mixed it with a yellow. Again, I do not call out specific colors. If you've been with me for years, you know that. That is by design because I don't want you to focus on mixing the perfect color. I want you to focus on having the most beautiful experience. This is the time we size things up. We step back, we look, we examine, and we figure out, well, do I need to add anything more? Yep, a little bit of pink there. But this is towards the end of a painting. You will get better at feeling that. You will get better at feeling when it's the quote end or you're nearing the end. And you will start to understand what that feels like in your gut. That takes some time though. Don't be too hard on yourself. I've overworked thousands of paintings in my life because I didn't quite know that I was nearing the end. I'm going in with that super dark. That's the muddy color from my handmade watercolor palette. And I'm adding in some contour linear detail to my leaf. I'm feeling like this is gonna be one of the final details I add. I get asked about composition all the time. And one of my secrets is don't do too much everywhere. Here she is. Look at that. All that fun color, mindful linear detail, and boom, friends, that white bloom is undeniable. Thank you so much for painting with me today. I can't wait for you to try this out, and I'd love for you to tag me here on Instagram, on TikTok. I want to see what you create. Happy painting, friends.